Recently, the INC elections was supposed to hold. I think that's about 2 Saturdays ago or thereabout. And it's been said that there are litigations and counter litigations, all kinds of stories are out there in the media space. And because of a court injunction, I understand the election was moved forward indefinitely. What do you make of this?
It is sad to hear because, these two platforms or bodies are critical to the progression of the people, the Ijaws as a people, and to our national struggle. So it is sad to see that in our homogeneous setting as a people, we have this kind of chaotic engagement or chaotic sessions where people are subjecting the process to litigations and all of that. Personally, I would have wished that there was some sort of consensus as to how the process should be carried out. So it's a sad one. Personally, I'm not really picking on any particular candidate but I would always want to believe that we should make decisions that is best for our struggle as a people.
Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to Open Insight on Primarald TV. The people of Bayelsa State are still reeling over the loss of Senator Lawrence Ewhrudjakpo. The former deputy governor's passing left shockwaves across the political landscape in Bayelsa State. Now, with the governor's surprise move to the APC and a new deputy governor appointed and sworn into office, the questions are piling up. What are the implications and what does this mean for the political future of Bayelsa State? These and many other issues are what we shall be discussing today on Open Insights. My name is MX9, I am your host, and I have a very special guest in that house. But before I introduce my guest, I would like to crave your indulgence to kindly follow Primarald TV across all social platforms using the handle now shown on your screen. And do not forget to also engage on all our posts. So now to my special guest. I would like you to kindly introduce yourself. Be welcome.
Thank you very much, MX9. My name is Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri, founder, director of operations, Primarald Limited, author, tech expert as well. I must say I'm not politically aligned to kind of any political platform. So my opinions and inputs are from a practical viewpoint. I would say from a nationalistic, standpoint. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Ebiks. Okay, so one of the things I am thinking, by the way, he's my boss. So yeah. One of the things I'm thinking about, I see you as a man of many pies, right? But before we talk about that, I would like us to dive straight into politics.
Yeah.
And I would like us to start from home. First question I would like to ask is, recently, before, like I said in my introduction, before the former deputy governor passed, the governor and about 99.9% of his cabinet, as well as the House of Assembly members, moved from the PDP to the APC. And then at that time, it was said that the deputy governor said he was not going to go with the governor. Eventually, the deputy governor passed, sadly, and Bayelsans are still in shock. First, my first question is, what do you make of the governor's move from the PDP to the APC?
And I would say politics is very dynamic.
Yes, it is.
And, some of the decisions that are made is in view of personal interests as well, future foreseeable political alignment. And of course, the turbulence that befell the governor's previous party, that is the PDP, created a lot of uncertainty. And I believe logically, you cannot, be in a party that is kind of burdened with a lot of litigations. And then what if you want to contest for an election, then you try to obtain a ticket only to realize that you are probably not in the right faction, a legally recognized faction. And then some other person. So it was a very distortive period.
But if I should ask you a follow-up question to that, yes, there was crisis. There is still crisis in the PDP. But shouldn't have the governor thought of going to another? Why must it be the APC?
My reasoning from my own perception, I believe he would most likely want to align with the central power. You know, the governor has a unique character of not really wanting to engage in unnecessary fights.
Yes, that have
For the sake of probably political clout. And he has been someone who has been, you know, very down to earth to know to see, okay, what is best for me, what is best probably for the people. It's his responsibility to think of what's best for the people. And personally, I believe he probably didn't want to kind of create some sort of animosity with the central power. And if the PDP is no longer a welcoming platform to sustain his ambitions and their future political projections, then why not go to maybe a safer, next, a safer zone there?
Well, to ask you a question, I like the fact that you stressed that you're not, associated or affiliated
No, I am
with
not.
those parties. From your viewpoint as a person, because there are allegations, and especially the opposition, a lot of people are saying that Nigeria is gradually tilting towards a one-party state. Do you think that, because I have personally noticed over time that, because especially when he first became the governor of the state, one of the first things I noticed he did was he tried to galvanize across party lines, and he was even saying if there are people who are qualified by all sense, he wouldn't mind to appoint them into his cabinet, even if they were of the opposition. I understand that. But do you think that it's it spells well for a country like Nigeria?
You know, democracy is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
And it is mostly advisable that we are cut across different party lines.
Yeah.
However, um, the dynamic nature of politics could see that there are alignments and also misalignments at some point. Of course, there are sentiments that, oh, it's becoming a one-party state, in the country, and a lot of fears about democracy being under siege. But I don't really see it from that point of view. It takes one who is astute and dogged to engage in a political move. I mean, for instance, the president himself, he had been in the opposition. There was a time when largely 80 to 90% of politicians in the country was in the PDP. But the person you have as president today was always in opposition. So it takes people who are brave, who are courageous to say, look, I want to remain in the opposition. So that doesn't necessarily mean that democracy is dead in the country. That doesn't necessarily spell doom for democracy. But there will continually be alignments and misalignments. It is just natural.
Okay, so not to cut you, I would like us to come back home a bit again, and I want to ask you about the choice of deputy after the passing of the former deputy governor in the person of Dr. Peter Ape. This our current deputy governor. He was appointed and now been sworn in. He was the chief of staff to the governor before his current appointment as deputy governor. What do you make of the choice of deputy?
And judging from the character of the late former deputy governor, may he so rest in peace, and then comparing it to the character of Dr. Peter Ape, who is the current deputy governor, I would say they are not far-fetched in character. Late Senator Lawrence Ewhrudjakpo was an administrator in every sense, a stable figure. And I think that was the reason why, even when everybody defected to the opposition and he remained in his party, the governor was still able to align with him, because it takes someone of stable character to say that, okay, I can continue without giving this person a fight. And the new deputy governor, like, he is a seasoned administrator. I mean, he has served in different capacity. I see him as someone who has a stable character when it comes to administrative function. Judging from his experience as a chief of staff, and judging from his experience as a legislator, and all of the different positions he has held, and also coming from the same senatorial district and even the same local government.
That was actually very wide.
Yeah, so I think the governor would most likely have subjected himself to wide consultations, to narrow down. And of course, the deputy governor is someone who he knows personally. He has a deep insight in his character as well, and he believes and he trusts that, okay, this person should be able to deliver. And I think that's the reason why it didn't create a lot of controversy in the state, because it's kind of ticked all the boxes. The late deputy governor was a seasoned administrator, he was a stable administrator. And then you have Peter Akbe, who is also almost in similar character, coming from same senatorial district, coming from same local government. So I think it was a wise decision. Yeah, it was a wise decision from the governor.
Okay, so now I would like to ask you this. So the political season is already, the weather is already peaking, the cloud is getting really thick already, even though the whistle has not been blown yet. But we can see that there are serious alignments and misalignment, like you earlier said. But in my introduction, there was something I said about what could be the implications of some of these alignment and misalignments. Now, my question to you rather is, a couple of names have been mentioned going forward for the people of Bayelsa State and in Bayelsa politics. Names like the minister Henikin Lokpobiri, names like the CEO of the Niger Delta Development Commission, and then now, because Peter Akwe is the correct deputy governor, amongst other people, amongst other political pinwheels in Bayelsa State. We all know that all these alignments, it's tilting towards what is going to be, who is going to get what at the forthcoming elections.
Gubernatorial.
Yes, exactly, in Bayelsa State. What are your thoughts?
It's very, very interesting. Like I said, I'm not aligning to any particular candidate because I have a politically non-aligned status myself. But I think what would be best for Bayelsans is to, search deeply to find the character that is also a stable administrator, but then also has a widespread, popularity, across not only the populace, but also across the maybe political divide. Bayelsa is unique.
Yes.
We are the century figure of the Ijaw Nation. So whoever becomes a governor of Bayelsa State is almost like the leader of the Ijaw Nation, the political leader of the Ijaw Nation. So Bayelsa, the role of the Bayelsa governor is very critical to the, progress and the functioning of the Ijaw cause. And then if you would want to kind of align yourself with a particular figure, and the person must have a widespread popularity, not only in Bayelsa, but also across, the states, where we have Ijaws alike. So the three persons you have mentioned, they are fantastic candidates. If possibly anyone had interest, but then nobody has indicated any certain interest. But I wouldn't be in the position to tell Bayelsans that this is the person you should vote for. Okay, even if three persons are interesting candidates, I won't be in that position.
Amongst the East,
Yes, but we have deep assessments to make. We have portfolios to search through. We have scrutiny, to engage in for each person, if in case they have the interest for it. Because one of the very first criteria is that you must be courageous enough to indicate that interest. So it's interesting. And also, from the fact that the state governor has defected to the ruling party in the central, it also creates a huge political sentiment. Bayelsa has been aligned with the PDP, that of course gave us the presidency. And statement from the current senator representing Bayelsa West, Senator Henry Serake Dixon, His Excellency, saying that, look, we had a platform that gave us the presidency, and then the governor has moved to a platform that took it away from us. So it doesn't make sense morally for we to support the ruling central figure. I mean, that is his opinion, sorry. But that is his opinion. And it is understandable. And it's not something that can be easily cast aside. These are things that people would think deeply about. And then also, you would now consider the fact that his central figure, it's a political platform. I don't think it's an ethnic platform. It's a political platform. So, which brings my point that there will be alignments and misalignments. So you just never can tell what the outcomes would be despite all of the sentiment. But it's going to be an interesting season.
Okay, so but now I would like to now ask you this. You mentioned Senator Henry Ewhrudjakpo,
Yeah.
and you highlighted his sentiment, but he has also led the people. Like, it's been confirmed that he has now, flagged a new political party.
Yes.
So, where is his sentiment? What is the place of that initial sentiment now that he has also left the PD?
Okay, reflecting on his statement when the governor just recently decamped from the PDP to the APC, he made a statement to say, look, the PDP has given us the presidency, so he cannot go to a party that has taken it from us. But then, even if the PDP is no longer a sustainable platform, then there will be wide consultations to know what the next move would be, but not the APC. So, but I think people didn't kind of take cognizance of the fact that he made that statement. He kind of put a clause. And now he has come up, like I said, it takes a bold figure to be an opposition, to oppose. And he has decided not to align with the central figure in power, that is the APC, and has decided to not only, you know, uh, form his party, but actively engage in building his own party, which is the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. It's a laudable move in terms of a political character. Not to say I endorse a particular political figure, but judging from a political standpoint or a character, I would say it's a laudable move because he has come out to say that, look, I have the character, the grit, the sustaining willpower to say, look, this is what is best for our people, and I want to position myself. I want to align with the ideologies that are best for us as a people. It is left to be seen where it leads to, hopefully for the best, but I can't tell because I'm not an actively, involved politician. So that is what.
Okay, so now I would before we talk a bit of national politics, I would like to ask you this. Let's talk about his own politics. His own politics, the IYC and the INC. Recently, the INC elections was supposed to hold. I think that's about 2 Saturdays ago or thereabout. And it's been said that there are litigations and counter litigations, all kinds of stories are out there in the media space. And because of a court injunction, I understand the election was moved forward indefinitely. What do you make of it?
It is sad to hear because, these two platforms or bodies are critical to the progression of the people, the Jaws as a people, and to our national struggle. So it is sad to see that in our homogeneous setting as a people, we have this kind of chaotic, engagement or chaotic sessions where people are, subjecting the process to litigations and all of that. Personally, I would have wished that there was some sort of consensus as to how the process should be carried out. So it's a sad one. Personally, I'm not really picking on any particular candidate but I would always want to believe that we should make decisions that is best for our struggle as a people. You cannot take away the jaws when it comes to nation building in this country. The fourth largest ethnic group, we have always been at the forefront of sustaining the national polity, of sustaining the country called Nigeria.
Right.
And so sensitive positions like in the IMC or the IYC, I believe should come with having a proper moral understanding on how we should have a same process in elections, a consensus process in selecting those who are going to lead a just trouble. Hopefully, they will get things right, hopefully. But I believe, the Ijaw means truth. I believe on the foundations of truth, we'll come to rest on a point where things will go smoothly for the betterment of all.
Okay, so let's talk national politics now. Nigerians across different divides have different opinions about the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's led federal government. To you, how do you think this government has fared since they came into office?
Judging from the character of the president, I wouldn't position myself in the area where I would castigate the president to say he has done, a drastically poor or something like that.
That sounds like it contrasts to what Nigerians would say.
Yes, I would rather want to come from the point of a stable nationalistic, viewpoint.
I'm very correct.
The president is one who, in character, has always been known to making hard decisions. He has that real power, the grit and the focus to say, this is what I want to do, and he goes on to do it. Not to say all of his decisions will turn out to be the best. Of course, he's a human being prone to errors. But as a nation and as a people, I think we should now start thinking of when we finally have someone in power, because government is a responsibility of all, not just one figure who is the president or other entities like those in the Senate. Even as we oppose some of these policies, let's be contributive, let's also try to understand. Like, for instance, the tax policy sub was created a lot of controversy, a lot of balls. Or people didn't really take time to understand the context of it.
Yes, because there was a lot of
misunderstanding. I believe we as a nation, we have had several platforms that have been evasive to tax.
True.
And you can't run a system without contributions such as tax. Although I would also like to see that there is, critical consideration to the welfare of the people, as to see that the basic necessities are provided. Do the people have good roads? Do the people have good health? Do the people have, good amenities in general, education? So if all of the revenues generated from tax and the policies are now, invested back into, the well-being and the betterment of the people, then that is good. But then the process of governance is not a magic process as well. That is one thing we need to understand. And the policies, the polity has been affected by a deep virus in a way that it is not really easy for anybody to just come in and just change things.
That is also very true.
You understand? So that's not to say I am projecting the person or the candidacy of the president to say, oh, he's the best person to rule the nation. But I'm not also going to say I'm going to completely cast aside the president and say, oh no, he's not the best, or he's not doing a good job, or he's doing so poorly.
But a lot of Nigerians feel that, there's this sentiment about the president's health condition. We saw the images and the videos that came out from the last time he went to Turkey. There's been all kinds of, so do you think that the president should still want to run for a second term, considering his health status?
I believe he has health experts that advise him.
Okay.
Myself, I'm not an health expert. The health experts are consulted to that effect, and he personally will do the consultations, not we as a people. You don't know his health. You can see someone in the surface and the person looks fragile, but then deep inside the person might be strong as well. But
let me ask you something. You know that in other parts of the world, the first world nations and thereabout, the president is the business of the people. It is the people's right to know the president's health status. Why is it different in Nigeria?
Even in other parts of the world, as an individual, you have the right to non-disclosure of your health status.
As a public officer,
yes.
As a public office holder,
you do have the right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's it.
But in a situation whereby you are incapable health-wise to carry out the functions of governance, it is in your moral position to declare that I can't continue. Now that would be left for the president to decide that I am not fit health-wise to continue with the process. But by the standards of human rights and by ethical medical practice, you just can't announce somebody's health status, even if he's a public figure.
Actually,
you would need to take consent, except that else it's an infringement on the person's right. Because disclosure of health status has deeper implications than just people knowing whether persons who are affected with some sort of stigma as well. So you will have to take people's psychological circumstance into consideration as well. So that's why, on the ethical viewpoint, medical practitioners do not come out and say, "Oh, this person's health is like this." Or from a moral standpoint, it is required of a president or a public office holder to take up the courage to come and say, "Look, I can't continue because health-wise, I am unfit," or you can't compel that individual.
Okay, so that's understood. But very quickly, I'd like you to comment on the current coalition, the ABC. What do you make of the crop of politicians that we have in that coalition? Very quickly.
It's interesting because, I mean, you have people who were aligned and also later misaligned, and then also coming back together. It's interesting to see how they would be able to form a consensus to agree on a particular standpoint, or a particular avenue or strategy on how they would seize power from the from the national. I'm not sure where it will lead to, but I believe as adults, they are made up of adults.
Have Nigerian politicians carry themselves as adults?
Look, I'm not going to how would I put it? Start saying Nigerian politicians are this, or Nigerian politicians are that, or they are useless, or they are not. Well, I would say as adults, we should know how to conduct ourselves in a way that we can speak to a moral understanding and decide on a particular strategy or avenue on how things should be done. I mean, you have very strong characters. You have the former Minister of Transport, Watini Amechi. You have the former presidential candidate from the Labour Party, Peter Obi. You have the former vice president and also former presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. So you also have former governor of Kaduna, Nasser El-Rufai, Excellency. So you have people who have, who, as in the Nigerian polity, are viewed as dogged politicians. People who would always like to have a final say, and merging those sort of strong characters together to come into a consensus to say, okay, let us back a particular figure, that would take us to the next level. It is interesting to see how things unfold, but I will not be the one to kind of prophesy or decide to say, oh, it will go well for them or it will not go well for them. I would only say it's an interesting time ahead.
All right, so I'm still right here in the studio, in the Primarald Studios, with my own boss, Mr. Ebiks Justice. And we've been talking politics. Some of his views are sharply in contrast with what a lot of Nigerians, would think. And some people would even say that he's trying so hard to be politically correct. I don't know. So, but yeah, these are entirely your opinion. So, I would like us to talk a bit of international politics. But before we do international politics, I have one question I think you attempted to answer in the beginning, but I was asking, when I was talking about Bayelsa State. Now I want to ask you, in terms of Nigeria as a country, do you think that it is the president's idea to either directly or indirectly tilt Nigeria towards a one-party state to ensure his return for second term?
From a political standpoint, I wouldn't really think that the president is too interested in having a one-party state. No, it takes a lot to enforce a one-party state. However, I would also understand with the president, if he wants the majority of politicians to be aligned with his own political platform. Naturally, that is the way things work in politics. You want the numbers are the game. It's a game of numbers. So the more persons you have on your platform, but the president has not really shown that aggressiveness to say, I want to force everybody to come into my platform. I think
Is that how you see it, though?
that's the way I see it. I mean, because if really he wanted to enforce a one party system, he has the mechanisms and the tools to really do so. It does. You don't the powers that are confined in the presidency are enormous. and then not just the power, the influence as well, because there are certain areas where his powers do not reach, but because of his influence as the number one citizen of the country, it reaches certain areas and angles. And yes, he can be, persuasive to the opposition. He can be kind of, trying to lure, critical figures, positions to come around to his platform. But these are normal political strategies as practiced everywhere in the world. You want everybody to be aligned with your platform. And so, no. Democracy, I believe, is still safe in Nigeria. I believe it's still safe in Nigeria. People would want to think that, oh, he's championing or he's trying to kind of champion the cause of presidency. No, from a very stable viewpoint, democracy is safe. You have the ADC, that is already making wave. I mean, they are making serious waves in the polity, okay? And the NDC that is led by the current senator.
They have a national president.
They have a national presence. I mean, the person of Senator Henry Seraken Dixon is a national figure. Is one of the most renowned voices in the Senate today.
That's also true.
If he has a platform such as the NDC, you know that they already have a national presence.
But you know that national presence in the actual sense of that word is quite different from...
Look, the person of Dixon is one of those few persons in the Senate that, not just on a national level, international level, people are gracefully looking to have him speak on national issues.
Yeah, because he has that commanding...
He has that commanding presence. He has that voice. He has that conviction in him that, forces you to try to understand his viewpoint. And so far, he hasn't really given into the pressures of people wanting him to shut up. And so, he's someone who is also respected on an international scale because he speaks, with intention. And of course, with his experience in governance. So if he has a platform such as the NDC, it is no pushover as well. If you talk about 4 to 5 senators in the Nigerian Senate, what you're going to, I mean, without any sentiments, without me saying that this is the person I support, which I really don't align with any candidacy. We're talking from a very, balanced viewpoint, practical viewpoint. Senator Henry Seraken Dixon is a national figure in all essence.
So talking about the Dixon approach and influence in politics, I would like to touch a bit on Bayelsa politics again. What do you foresee in the forthcoming state elections? What do you think is going to happen? Now, don't forget that he was sort of like a political, not necessarily a godfather, but he was a very influential figure.
Is a political juggernaut.
Yes, in bringing forth someone like our current governor, the current governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Ewhrudjakpo. What do you foresee happening in the next state elections? What do you think is going to happen?
In the next state elections, like I said, it's interesting times ahead. And the governor himself is a very strong character.
Yes.
For this time, or I would say for the very first time, he would also be in direct opposition with his former boss, who is the current senator representing Bayelsa West Senatorial District. And you also have some other opposing figures as well. And also you cannot exclude, the influence of the former presidents. Former President Goodluck Jonathan. So it's going to be a tough contest. We know it's going to be an influential process because people would want to really have their say and also want to, stamp their footing on the Bayelsa political landscape. I don't know what the practical outcomes would be. I can only foresee that it is going to be a tough process. Nobody is going to have it easy. The senator is not going to have it easy. The governor also will not be able to find it easy pushing over the senator. The candidates that will be emerging eventually across different parties would not have it easy.
They have to be very strong.
It is going to be a dicey process. It is going to be a dogged process. It is going to be a tough process as well. So interesting times ahead for Bayelsans. And then with the sentiments, I would say the national sentiment of, the APC took away what we enjoyed, on a national platform, that is the just struggle was able to produce someone like the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who we can say was one of the best presidents in the country. So with Siraka Dixon bringing up the viewpoint that we cannot align with this platform, it is a smear on our image as an Ijaws to align with this platform.
But that's which is the sentiment. But there are millions, not only thousands, millions of people that subscribe to it. So that's one thing that makes it very difficult. So how would you as the governor, who is the governor and the leader, the political leader of the Ijaw Nation, how are you going to kind of desensitize people in this orientation that look, the APC is not against the just struggle, or the APC is not against the Jaws, and but whatever has happened in the past, we can forgive the APC as a platform because maybe we have certain political figures that are now aligned nationally as the just struggle, and is going to also support our cause as well. So there is a lot of orientations to provide, and the person of Senator Lawrence Ewhrudjakpo is someone who comes with a lot of strong convictions and a lot of convincing power. It will not be an easy process for anybody. Interesting times ahead for Bayelsa. Interesting times ahead. So I'm going to ask you this now. I want us to talk just briefly on international politics. And we're not just talking international politics, but we're talking international politics as it relates to Nigeria. Being someone who resides in the UK, from your experience, from your observations, what do you think is the key element that is missing in Nigerian politics back home as you have, seen outside? Why do you think it works out there and it doesn't seem like it's working here?
First, I would say this is a very sensitive topic and it's very interesting, and it's one that we have to take as a very critical aspect of our nation building. Now, ourselves as a populace in Nigeria, as the general citizen here, I think sadly we don't take geopolitics very serious.
That's true.
Now, our international image, matters a lot to our national progress. And as a people, we should now begin to have a posture in view of having a strong international presence and image. I mean, national policies in a way, have a very strong effect on how our global image is projected. But for every individual in a country, they have the responsibility, to also preserve a good international image for ourselves. Both Nigerians at home and Nigerians in diaspora. We should now begin to think, what is our strategic alignment? What is our strategic global posture? What are the influences that we have? We are in a time where there's a lot of global strategic alignments. You have like the BRICS community, led by Russia, China, Brazil, India, South Africa. You have the G7, led by the United States. So you have a lot of international bodies. As a country, where do we find ourselves? Because our international image matters a lot to our national progress. But that is one thing we have not recognized so well as a populace.
Yeah.
So well. And we should begin to adopt the Singaporean model of, governance as a nation as well. It is going to the words MPH, that is meritocracy, pragmatism, honesty. As a people, we should begin to project individuals who have character in merit. These are people who, have the capacity, who have the expertise to take actions or to do certain things that is beneficial to a nation and can be projected to an international stage. We should begin to be pragmatic in our thinking, in our national affairs, and as well as in view of our strategic global posture. We have to be honest as a people, as individuals. When you go outside of the country, in your dealings with people outside, you have to be honest. We have to begin to project individualistic images to the world that sees Nigeria as a welcoming environment for investment, as a welcoming environment for, to relax, promoting tourism, promoting different sectors. Because the better your international image or your global posture, the better the economy. National economies are in look or in search of strategic global alignment to promote the economy. Take Hungary, for instance. Hungary is closely aligned with Russia and also closely aligned with the EU and then the US. They are trying to have like a strategic balance balance in power, because it is critical to the functioning of the Hungarian economy. For we as a nation, what is our strategic global alignment? What are we known for? Who do we posture with? Who do we align with? So that is the reason why it is critical as a populace to begin to now see how we can support governance. I wouldn't say governments or narrowing down to individuals. I would say governance, because governance is like a process and a duty for every individual. I mean, government is the body of principles, rules, regulations, that, kind of directs the people to a particular, direction. But we as a people, we have to actively engage in the process of governance. Be honest in our dealings with ourselves and people outside. Be pragmatic in our thinking. Think of the best way possible to achieve, global and national success. Give people who merit certain positions, people with the expertise, people with the competence to do certain things. So, as a people, our global posture is very, very important to our national progress and economic growth.
Thank you very much. I thought that I was going to get your opinion, maybe in like 10 seconds. If you can just let me know your opinion on the U.S.-Iran liberal war. What do you think is happening there?
The U.S.-Iran war conflicts is, it's sad. First, I would say it's sad because there is constant loss of lives and then there's destruction of properties. Personally, I wouldn't want to see that there is conflict anywhere in the world. Not in Russia or Ukraine, not in the US, not in the Middle East, because we are better as a people and as a society working together in peace and harmony. So my first call would be that I would wish that there is a consensus. I would wish that there is an understanding, that provides peace in all essence. I'm not going to have a stake or to have a take on which particular platform or body or party to the conflicts that I support, not in US or Iran, not in Russia or Ukraine. My general view or my general perception is that there is a chance for peace, regardless of what the differences or the grievances are. There is a chance. There is always a slim opening for peace, for peaceful consultation. I see that there are constant engagement between the president of Russia, the president of Ukraine, and the president of the US, that is Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin. There are discussions on a global stage on how this thing can be brought to an end. So far the EU has not, or the European countries has not actively, decided to engage, in a conflict, and which is good to promoting peace or to promoting the call for peace, and then also, there should be a louder call for de-escalation, because things could get out of hand. By the time you begin to now see more participation from foreign entities, they're now in view of Third World War.
Especially with how you have Iran attacking
the Gulf states, Iran attacking the Gulf states, because those people also have partners And the more severe the severe damages are caused in this Gulf state, other partners might like to get directly involved as well in the conflict. And this thing can go out of hand, and then we might find ourselves in Third World War, which doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't benefit humanity as a whole, because you have people who are armed in nuclear weapons as well. So if you have a Third World War, the tendencies of a nuclear exchange, which is doom and Armageddon, are there. So we all go back to the Stone Age. So I would always champion the cause of de-escalation. I would always champion the cause of, projecting peace. I would always champion the cause of finding a slim chance to discuss, to come back to the table, to understand where we can find that alignment, to have a diplomatic engagement, to continue to work together, for global, peace.
Thank you very much, Mr. Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri. This has been a wonderful conversation. There are other areas I would have loved us to explore, but we have to go for this episode of Open Insight. I hope that I can have you again anytime soon.
Thank you.
I don't know how we could work that out, but So that has been today's episode of Open Insight right here on Primarald TV. My name is MX Stein. I have been your host for this episode. Don't forget, follow Primarald TV across all social platforms using the handles now showing on your screen. And also do not forget to engage on all our posts. That's been it on Open Insight for this episode. See you next time.
Thank you.